What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fandom Empire YouTube channel. This is our weekly show, House of the Empire, live every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. On tonight's agenda, it got a little bigger this morning. We have House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 5 review, the Avengers Doomsday trailer, more on the Halloween game, and some Star Wars news roundup. Joining me off the top tonight, uh, the one, the only, the Grand Moff himself, Randy. What's going on, buddy?
Just your typical Monday as always. Whatever could go wrong did go wrong because Monday. But other than that, I got home and I finally watched the episode of House of Dragon. Still not fully sure where my thoughts are on this, but I'm sure as we go through it, I'll finally find my voice and actually figure out exactly how I truly felt, because it was different for me for some reason. I don't know why, but here we are, and that's why we're doing this. So,
Also joining us, it's the one, the only. You can find him here, there, and ever. No, I'm kidding. It's Dustin. What's going on, buddy?
Hey guys, yeah, Johnny will be here later, so I think if I take his moniker now, he'll hate me even more after last week's episode of saying that he's a huge fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake as well as Dark Knight Rises. Yes, he took that very personally. I'm doing well. Monday has come and gone. It was a Monday, as Randy said. Glad to be able to break away and talk about the episode and talk about all the stuff that dropped today and all the news stuff that's going out. I saw the episode this morning, and I'm excited to talk about it, see what everyone thinks.
Yeah, I won't lie. Outside of Avengers, I don't know what else dropped today news-wise. I spent a good chunk of the day with my kids and family in the pool, and um, yeah, so, and I'm sure my body will be feeling it here if it isn't already. Um, but let's dive right into this because we got a lot to cover tonight. We have a lot of topics outside of House of the Dragon. As you guys can see, Zach and Ryan are not here. Not sure what Zach's up to this week, but I do know that Ryan is on vacation. So hopefully he's enjoying that, and we expect both of them back next week. So let's dive into it. So Randy, you said you weren't sure what to make of the episode, start to finish, and I don't know how much you remember of Game of Thrones. There was one thing that stood in my head specifically, and it's a little vague because it's not one specific moment or episode, but rather a season, and that was Game of Thrones season 6, where the Sept, the Seven, if you will, the Faith, were heavily involved in the storyline, and it really felt like that during last night's episode, for better or for worse. How about you?
yeah, I've only had a one watch through with Game of Thrones, so I watched it as it came out. So that tells you how long ago it's been for me since I've seen any of those episodes. But the way the flow of it, I'm sitting here going, okay, we're leaning on kind of a catch up to some degree with some of the characters, but also leaning more heavily on kind of, I guess the best way to describe it is the fall of one and the rise of another. So it's like, not to get into any spoilery stuff right yet, but that's kind of how it felt like to me. Like we saw, it's like same side, but it's like the fall of the old and the rise of the new. That's kind of the best way to describe it for me. But also getting to see characters that we had one opinion on, because they leaned so heavily into the character design and how they brought them to life. And this episode just completely shattered three different characters for me, like just them as a whole. And I know we're going to get into it, but it's just, so that's where my confusion came, because obviously when it came to like Damon and Rhaenyra, there was a lot of stuff that still felt the same as it always has. But when we get to the rest of it, there was just so much there that just kind of threw me for a loop and caught me off guard, that I just couldn't make heads nor tails of it, like how, like overall how I felt. And when we get to my MVP, I'll probably shock the hell out of you with it.
I can openly admit, as we sit here in our opening segment of this show, I do not have my MVP locked down yet. So I'm hoping it becomes a little more clear during this conversation. Dustin, I can't remember if you said you'd seen Game of Thrones all the way through or not. I
Yeah,
think you have.
yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
I've seen all of Game of Thrones.
yeah. This really reminded me, and I could be wrong. It could be someone else that did the whole final supper thing at the end of the episode, if you will. Um, but there was a lot of talk of the Seven and the Faith, and then they end up at the Sept. And in Game of Thrones, obviously the Elizabeth Swann's dad from Pirates of the Caribbean, if you've seen those movies,
Yep.
plays a pretty big role for a couple seasons in that show. Um, it really felt like we were going down that path, which is, I kind of have mixed feelings about it in Game of Thrones. And in this regard, it's been green versus black, and then inner turmoil between both teams as well. And now you add quite possibly the faith into it, if you will, the Seven, and it brings a whole new light to what's going on. Did any of this resemble that to you, and your thoughts on just it if it's going that way?
Yeah, um I see clips on YouTube sometimes and it'll pop up and there's different scenes of recently of that character. I forgot his name, but he plays the like one of the main people of the Seven and the Sept in King's Landing. Um and there's always been a little bit of hints of that, of like the religious aspect to it. I think in this season for sure it's been more heavy-handed with especially the stuff with Rhaenyra and the Sept. Like, are they going to accept her as queen? And there's been a lot of hints that there's something else going on there. I don't know to what degree they're going to bring them up as a player, or like, are they going to be a part of the storyline going, as we get into the back half of this third season, or to set up something in season 4? Is it just going to be more of a minor thing that's happening? I mean, there was a lot of hints. I mean, Alicent had her necklace that she gave away that I believe was of the Seven, right? Like, I think there was a lot of stuff that was going on in this episode that was heavily implied to be tied to it. So it will be interesting to see where it goes. There was some parallels between some of those episodes, but they haven't really brought up any main players other than like Rhaenyra being in the place with the candles, and Damon coming to her and kind of like being like, "What are you doing here? Like, you don't need them. The gods gave you dragons they give you power." So there was definitely some philosophical debate going on in this episode, which was kind of different because we haven't seen that as much in the series or in this series.
Yeah, you know, Game of Thrones had a very clever way of weaving a thread, not just the main thread, but the sub threads through earlier seasons to have payoffs later. And if you weren't paying attention to certain parts of it, you might find yourself lost, being like, "Oh, how did we get here?" But the reality was, well, they already laid the crumbs down. You just didn't follow. If you go back, and Dustin, you might be the most relevant person to talk to this about, um, simply because you just watched through the first two seasons of House of the Dragon. Um, but in season one, once we have one of the time jumps to the point where um, I think it's the beginning of episode 8, so this is after Alicent stabs Rhaenyra with the knife there, Arya's blade, if you will, and we have um, Aemon had lost his eye. The episode before, Daemon and Rhaenyra arrive at King's Landing, and they're seeing all of the like symbols and things laid around the castle that are of the faith and of the Seven. They both make comment about how the place has changed, and it's very much like Alicent at the forefront of those changes. Her and Otto. Um, I would argue that between that and then the bit in season two where Rhaenyra pleads her case to Alicent, and Alicent realizes she fucks up when they're at the Sept, the same place where she was with Daemon in this episode. I would argue they've been slowly laying some breadcrumbs here that the Seven, if you will, is going to have a role in what it ends up being the final outcome, whether it's now or down the road. Um, let's dive into this though. Hang on, we got T Money. I see Halloween and Phantom Empire. I won't miss. Halloween is later on in the episode. We'll be talking about the game and some of the stuff they revealed with their little developer Q&A last week. So, the three of us will be here for that, and hopefully Johnny will be with us. Um, let's start with Team Green. So, in this episode, I would argue there's nothing really relevant that happens with Ormond. Um, Ormond stays, unless I missed something, um,
Uh,
pretty stationary to last week.
yeah, I think compared to last week for sure. There was definitely stuff going on though, because it's kind of heavily. I mean, they show he was basically causing chaos in King's Landing with the, the City Watch.
See, I think he has a hand to play in that, but I'm not convinced it's him, and I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe
Uh,
they just set him up as a red herring, right? To see him like.
do you remember
But
when
the
Rhaenyra
gold
is looking to
coin.
be crowned? A couple episodes ago, Rhaenyra is looking to be crowned officially, and the faith, if you will, from the Sept and the
Yeah.
Seven, they say to her, "Yeah, we can't do that." And I think she says something along the lines, "Fuck the faith." Um, it, I think
I
there's
I think
elements that are Ormond, but I think there's elements that are the faith acting on their own.
yeah, and I think you might be right, just from the fact that um, they could have done that to set it up as like a red herring that Orman's trying, orchestrating this from where he's at. Oh, is it Tumbleton, Tumbletown? And if you think about the actual killings, that's very religious in nature, like disembowelment, and then obviously a very clear representation of like the Last Supper, right? Obviously, it's not the Last Supper because they don't follow the same, Christianity per se, but it is very indicative of the Last Supper and seeing the disembowelments and stuff like that. So I think that you are absolutely right that there's the Seven and the Sept is because they're not backing Rhaenyra. They may have some other, either they're in, they're working with Ormond, or they're, you know doing their own push for power.
They could very well be working with the high towers, like all the like I mentioned earlier, dating back to season one. It was Alicent and company that were really trying to shift the imagery inside the Red Keep from dragons um, to the faith. So we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, Ormond himself on screen, we don't see too much with, but we do see more with Aegon and why can I not remember the Lairs? That's it, Lairs Strong, and we get the reveal of a certain someone who we thought might have died in that first episode, and uh, he did not, and is still alive. Um, thoughts on? Sorry, 1 second. Thoughts on the return of I can't remember, Aaron from Halloween 2018. The
Only
Lannister
Michael
there.
can kill him.
Yeah, right. I won't lie. I thought this dude was dead. The way he fell, armor in the water. I was surprised he was still alive. Um, Randy, how do you think? I always forget which Lannister it is, so I'll just call him the Lannister at this point, since we definitively know his twin is dead. Uh, um, what
Yeah,
were your thoughts on him still being alive and how that might affect the story moving forward?
it was definitely a bit of a holy shit moment for me because I wasn't even expecting or thinking that he was going to show up. It was one of those going, wait a second, where the hell did you come from? How did you get there? I just kind of shook my head and went, huh, okay, I guess. I'm sure maybe if we're lucky, he'll go into it a little bit, or we might get a small flashback if someone asks him the question. I don't know. It seems odd that we have zero inkling that he's around, but all of a sudden there he is. As far as the role he plays, I mean, he may, help Aegon get to where he wants to go. I don't know. It just it threw me off enough that I was just like going, okay, where are we going with Aegon at this point? Because of just how they portrayed him, and of course, Laris pretty much calling him a horrible human being and a horrible king, which obviously kind of stuck with him a little bit. But yeah, this Lannister is I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see ultimately where his loyalties truly lie and if he actually helps or hinders Aegon. So I guess we'll find out.
I wish that you know Benioff and Weiss, and to a lesser extent George R. R. Martin, um, didn't spoil or potentially spoil this story in Game of Thrones. Um, Now, because the book is done from three different perspectives, and it's from three different maesters' perspectives, and it's more of a this is the way I seen things go down. No, this is the way I seen things go down. There's some room to play with certain events, but because of that Joffrey scene, and again, I can't remember if it's the beginning of season 4 or the end of season 3 of Game of Thrones. I'm really hesitant to talk about anything involving that storyline that we're following with Laris and the Lannister and Aegon and some other parties. I almost wish I just knew which way they were going, so I knew what I could say or what I can't say. But I will say this: I find, at least performance-wise, Tom Glencarney is getting a lot to work with this season. And I'm not necessarily saying Aegon is sympathetic. I think that was out the window a long time ago in terms of how the audience feels. But man, like his performances just get better and better. Dustin, what did you think of Aegon's performance in this episode?
Yeah, I think his what I found in this episode in general, I mean, they've been following Laris and Aegon kind of like every time I'm seeing them, I kind of just wish like I'm like thinking to myself, I could see a whole show just based on their adventures. Like, and like you said, I don't know if they're going. I went down a rabbit hole and started looking stuff up. If they're going in the direction that we think they are, which I'm pretty sure they're going to now, based on the hints that they've given.
Wait, hang on. You went and looked it up?
I had to. I was one of those things. But
so
it was like,
so you potentially know, without saying it, because I don't want to talk about it
yeah,
on the show. You potentially know how this all might
right.
end.
But then, I mean, I think I know a part of it. We'll have to talk about it separately. Like, I'll message you about it. But I kind of almost seeing a show with just Aegon and Laris because their interactions are pretty great. Even the guy that plays Laris, but his character arc, and I think this episode, all the other episodes have had moments with Laris and Aegon, but this episode, what I liked was it hit on all the characters, but it also gave time for moments for other characters that have been in other episodes that have kind of been not present, right? In the last couple episodes, like there's a lot of characters out there, and it's easy to kind of just be like, oh, we're focusing on Rhaenyra and Daemon, and to have moments with these other characters and see what they're dealing with throughout this, I really appreciated. But the performance that he gives, the name of the actor of Aegon. Again, I
Tom
am not an
Glengardy.
Aegon. Yeah, I'm not a supporter. Like, I think Aegon as a character, there seemed to be hope for him a little bit when they were like, okay, we got to find him and bring him, and he kind of didn't want it. And then when he became what he became, just kind of sealed the deal. And he's not as evil as like Joffrey was, right, in Game of Thrones, and downright evil and despicable, but it still is a character that you love to hate. And then they're trying to make him more sympathetic. And then I think the stuff with Laris kind of telling him, like, you really flat out, like, you were a terrible, you had this great upbringing, you had all the possibilities in the world, you had all this fortune, and you became a terrible king, and you're a terrible person. And I like the fact that they gave him a moment to kind of show up again at the camp, and he sits next to Laris and is just like, okay, go ahead and do it. Like, he's realizing, yeah, I'm kind of an asshole, and coming to terms with that and what that means potentially for his character. But then he also has the moment where, the one dude finds the crown and he has to kill him, and they're just looking at him like, oh, great, here we go again. He's done something stupid to get us into a pickle. Thanks a lot. So I think he's been given a lot to work with, and I'm interested to see what the arc is for him, especially with his brother, right? So with all the revelations that happen with that. So
Yeah, I thought that moment where Laris is just like, no, you're a terrible person was just like this um audible bitch slap right across his face that connects and clearly has an impact on him as well. So I thought
uh,
that was one hell of a moment.
and I love that part where uh, Aegon he kills him, that one dude that finds the crown, and he's like, "You can call me your grace" or something like that. Just a really well done performance where he's towing the line between sympathetic character and still a pompous asshole. So like he's done a pretty fantastic job this season.
Yeah, I would agree. Randy, what did you think of Aegon's stuff in this episode and really his? I don't want to call it a side quest. He's the fucking king, or was the king, depending on how you look at it. Your thoughts on their journey in this episode?
I think I wouldn't say for the first time, but this was probably the most evident show of growth Aegon has had in a long time. And I think it was very well done. He had to get to the point of where he felt like giving up, like he was a failure before, and then to have Laris hit him with that verbal slap. That's something he clearly needed because his whole demeanor changed once he came back to the camp, and I thought that was just very well done. And then, of course, you have the Lannister show up and surprise the hell out of both of them and all of us. And yeah, it's going to be. I'm really curious to see where they go with the rest of the season with Aegon. I'm as much as he's not exactly a good person or a good but he's a good character, and I really want to see what path they choose for him, how he's going to grow, or if he regresses. I'm really curious to see how it all plays out, and I thought it was a really well done.
Elsewhere for Team Green in the episode, we have Aemon, who's still with the witch there over at Harrenhal, and we have Timu Opie from Sons of Anarchy show up, which I thought was funny because originally, on quick view, I'm like, because I've seen the Odyssey this weekend, and he has a pretty important role in that to some extent. Um, I was just kind of like, oh, we've seen him twice in one weekend, but no, it wasn't Ryan Hurst, who obviously is in news for rather unfortunate reasons this past week that we'll maybe touch on towards the end of the show. But um, I mean, look, there is well trained people who can go out there and hunt people down, bounty hunters, if you will. And then there's people that are trained by, you know, um, I would say royalty, but let's be real. Eamon is kind of fucking. Why can I not think of the prick's name who I want to die? He's got a role to play in this episode too.
And about Cole?
Cole, that's it. Kristen Cole. Aemond is really Kristen Cole's apprentice, if you will. If you look back to season 1, right? It's Cole that teaches him everything, and Aemond, when he gets out there against those bounty hunters, if you will, like it's like fucking watching Anakin Skywalker against the damn younglings in Revenge of the Sith on that cam recording. It's pitiful. He fucking slices them and dices them. I mean, it looked cool, but uh, definitely there are levels to this, and even in his current state, Aemon is a force to be reckoned with. What were your thoughts on that, Randy?
So he's one of the characters that kind of surprised me because I had never seen fear in him before. Like before, obviously, this was before this particular scene, and to see him actually have fear in his eyes and to be cowering because of the dreams. But we also know what Harrenhal can do to somebody, with especially what we saw with Damon, and we knew Aemon would be affected differently, and we're seeing that happen now. So is it a bit of growth? We won't know until we kind of have more of a discussion based on after this event, but clearly he's healing up nicely if he just pretty much made mincemeat out of 4 probably pretty seasoned bounty hunters. So yeah, it is definitely, kind of calls back to what Aegon was talking about, how essentially his jealousy towards Aemon having the best training and with the sword and things like that, and we get to see it in spades here. But I'm really curious to see uh, that what he's learning, and if we will even be privy to some of these dreams or visions he's having, because I think we should at least see what's going on in his head. I think that'd be a very interesting scene by itself. But no, it's Eamon is just as dangerous as he ever was. I just am curious to see where his mental state is overall after being in Harrenhal for as long as he's been.
That's an insane question.
Yeah, I think Aemond is. I mean, he's very capable, and Sir Cole, Tristan Cole, he basically, like you said, trained him. And Cole's saying at the end of the episode, near the end, like, I'm one of the greatest warriors. And he kind of shows that he's just like, and we'll get into that, um, his character and what happens with that in this episode. But seeing Aemond kind of weakened and still not sure what's going on with the witch or whatever showing up, what her plans are for him or what she's planning to do with him. I thought it was going to be a little more nefarious, kind of like what the Maester did to the Mountain in Game of Thrones. I thought there was going to be some like weird shit going on with stuff she did to him to kind of bend him to her will, and I still think that that's her ultimate goal. But he's definitely capable. I want to see what he's able to do against, I mean, Damon or um, other capable fighters, right? He's definitely still a threat, and I think uh, him being weakened like this and not having Vagar and what's going on with that and where Vagar is, and definitely makes him a little bit susceptible. And like Randy said, seeing him scared in when he got stabbed, and what people are thinking about him is like, oh, he ran away, or now the word's getting out that he basically caused what happened to Aegon. And like Randy, I love the stuff with Harrenhal. You know, the stuff we're getting back about when it was built and the stones were quenched in men's blood and stuff like that, and you hear all the. It's just a cool set piece, and I love when they did stuff with Damon with the ghosts and his visions, and I think it would be cool to get some of the flavor of what he's going through and what he's seeing. He kind of says, like, I saw my brother like screaming on fire and dragging me down into the darkness and stuff like that. So um it's going to be interesting to see what his character takes from all of this and where it's leading to see if he's going to have kind of that, the shows that I've always liked and moments that they can do is take a character that you hate and be able to what they're trying to do a little bit with Aegon, where it's like you hate this person, but then they're able to take the story and tell a story that makes you sympathetic to them and also try to weave it so that you start rooting for them a little bit. And I don't think we're going to get to that in this show. But I always love that attempt, and when it lands, it can be really cool to have that kind of 180 of I hate this character, oh my god, I actually like this character now, and they're trying to redeem him. But yeah, I would love to see anything more Harrenhal. I'm all for to see more stuff take place there and to see what he's going through and the visions he's having.
Yeah, Harrenhal obviously is a bit of a character in its own right, with its importance that it's played throughout House of the Dragon, but also throughout Game of Thrones. So we'll have to see what happens there. Kristen Cole and company are burning bridges and doing whatever they can to try to give Team Green some sort of edge. Um, are you guys like me, where it's like I'm just ready for this guy to get hit by a dump truck?
All right, I'll bite the bullet on this one first. So, I have been anti Cole for the longest time. The longest time, because this dude is just, yeah, he's one of those characters where you just were like, okay, can we just get his head smashed in something by now? And then he went and gave that speech at the end of the episode, and I was kind of like, huh? Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Why do I not fully on just hate you now? Like that speech kind of swayed me a little bit in terms of his character. Knowing now that he's trying to go out on his own terms versus being a servant, that was like, okay, you could have led with that. Uh, but they did a good job through with his scenes throughout the season of showing that it made it look like he was just serving Team Green the entire time when he comes out and says, I knew from the start that this was going to be my end. So I'm going out on my own terms. I'm doing things my way. And damn it, I respect it. Doesn't mean I love the character. Doesn't mean I'm doing a complete 180 on the character. But I still want to see him get his, head smashed in. But I don't absolutely hate the character anymore. That that one little speech was enough to kind of sway me enough to be like, okay, let's see how you go out versus I want you to go out in a specific way.
Dustin, how about you? How do you feel about Cole's performance and story in episode 5?
Yeah, I'm right there with Randy. To the point where it's just been like, even at the start of the episode, I'm like, man, he's got to go. And what are they keeping him around for? And I think, just seeing his determination and just saying that his whole life's been about oaths. And when I forget the name of the character, but it's Allison's brother, um, saying, hey, why don't you come back and to Old Town? You can serve my family. We'll need it. And he's just like, yeah, you offered me a position to serve, and I've been serving my whole life. And this was a death sentence when they sent us here, knowing that we're playing. And he's kind of mentioned that, like, we're playing a game with dragons. It's just a matter of time before we get burned. And he's seen some of the destruction that's happened, and he's kind of just been like almost like PTSD. And I was kind of wondering, what are they going to do with this character? And then at the start of the episode, you see him causing chaos, and then you have that moment where he's talking about this, and then um, at the end, he gives the speech, and that kind of overlays with the finale of the episode, right? Um, Understanding that his characters went through a lot of stuff too, um, it also put me in a position where I'm like, okay, I don't absolutely hate you. And are they trying to do something with you as a character that's going to have some kind of redemption, or um, is there more to do with you in the story that you can have more story? Um, and he was definitely, and I'll put this out there, it was so surprising that they spent that time with him and developed it that way, that he was a top contender for this episode for me for character of the episode, which is pretty surprising for that level character to have caught my attention so much.
Yeah, but it's also a testament for how good writing means something. It's not just the main characters that have good writing. It should
Right.
be everybody. There's a lot of lessons to be learned here from a lot of other uh, production companies, if you ask me. So that'll shift focus. Wait, did you get to add your 2 cents in there, Randy?
I did.
Okay, I couldn't remember. Um, let's shift focus to Team Black, where I really feel like the only characters that we're centering on, and maybe an extension of one of these characters, is Rhaenyra and Daemon. Um, I think Daemon tried to warn her previously that there's an enemy from within. She wasn't having any of it. Even during at points of this episode, she still wasn't having any of it. You know, I think she's in tough because of all the various things going on around her and all the loss, and she hasn't had a second to breathe. And stress wise, I don't know how she's doing it. She's clearly not sleeping much. Um, and then with Damon, his involvement with the City Watch, him rallying them to their cause and mentioning needing to wait longer for payment, but when they get it, it'll be twice what was promised. Um, which might not be the most outlandish thing in Star Wars or Dragon Ball or anything like that, but Rhaenyra at one point like trying to goat Damon in when they're in the Sept to, you know, getting the job done, essentially a pep talk of sorts. Um, as we see, that doesn't happen imminently anyway. Uh, Randy, what were your thoughts on just Team Black's episode?
It definitely felt like, I guess the best way to describe it is both, for both Damon and Rhaenyra, just confusion, frustration, a little bit of anger thrown in there. Obviously, Damon doing everything he can to rally the troops, get them back on, the side of Team Black, back on his side. And it's interesting to kind of see the dynamic that he has with the Night's Watch, because we've seen them, the City Watch. We've seen him just show that charisma, that charm, that everything that we knew we've seen previously, but we really hadn't get to see it that much this particular season because of everything that's been going on. But it's that whole reminder of who he is, and then of course the grilling scene for information. We get to witness just how brutal he truly can be with pulling someone's eye out. Granted, I was surprised he was going for the other one. I just figured just cut off the dude's two best friends, and that would have sealed it right there. But I digress. He gets his information. But yet, when we look at everything that's happening with Rhaenyra, it's just like every scene she's getting super emotional because she's so frustrated that nothing is going the way she wanted it, and it's being conveyed so well in her facial expressions. She's always near tears a lot of the times. And even when she's not screaming, you can see the anger, and even when she's speaking, you feel the power and command in her tone, that she doesn't have to raise her voice. Like, it's just, for what little time they really had, considering how many different characters we hit on, especially, but Rhaenyra probably didn't have as much screen time as she could have. A lot of it was pushed towards Daemon and others, but she always not crushes every scene she's in, because that just shows the importance of her character, but also the acting chops, the writing for the character is that strong. But yeah, you can tell they're on a precipice at this point. Like, they're at a tipping point where something's going to happen, and it's going to push everything into one direction. And now, could it be the very end of the episode that's that one moment? We're gonna have to wait and see till next week to find out.
Dustin, Team Black thoughts?
Yeah, Team Black. I mean, so is it safe to assume like the City Watch is at this point basically Team Black, right? Like, that's fair to say.
Whatever's left of them.
Yeah, exactly. This episode really, man, there was so much good and bad that happened to both sides, where it's kind of like not sure really who, like they suffered a lot of losses, and Rhaenyra is dealing with all of this stuff about like her council and who does she have to bring in, and then that one lady kind of just shows up bitching at her, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm going to join your council." It's like, okay, she's just trying to grasp at straws at this point, and then even the Maester is assisting Alicent, and you got what's her name, the girl, uh, the Whisperer or whatever, who's also kind of now, she said, "Oh, I'm not going to lie to the Queen." So just all the people around her. I think the fact that everything is so unstable for her, people are starting to try to figure out their exit strategy, or like, hey, I'm going to help you, but I also have to figure out my own ends. For me, Damon has been, ever since at Harrenhal and he saw the Song of Ice and Fire and he knows what's happening, he seems to have been put on the right course. Like, yeah, this needs to happen because I've seen what's coming next. And I know that this is important to do. And I am going to support her. But he, at times, like she even says, like, how come every time, you're basically saying you're going to do something, but it's backhanded, and it just sows dissent. And he's trying to, he can't shake some of the stuff that he wants to do, like his methods, right? He's supporting her, but his methods are still very barbaric at times. So I think they had a pretty rough episode, especially what happens at the end with the City Watch and what happens to them, and really, finding out, okay, was it Joffrey is still alive, and now his face is on coins and stuff like that, and she knows something's brewing. Um,
Darren.
Darren, sorry, yes, Darren Targaryen is basically alive out there, and now, even Damon says like, "Hey, we should have burned that place down when we had the chance." But she knows she's been trying to rule like Viserys. She's caught in between. She doesn't want to be. She wants to be able to be Viserys, but at the same time, she needs to have that kind of killer instinct too. And Alicent talks about it. Is that the Rhaenyra is a good person, but the weight of the crown crushes people. Um, so I think they're just super disorganized, and I think you see Team Green kind of putting it together, at least a plan, whereas Team Black is kind of just grasping at straws right now. So it's going to be, you think they have all the power, but with the disorganization, that could spell disaster.
Yeah, I think Damon has been more right the last couple episodes than Rhaenyra. That doesn't mean he was right to more or less show her up and only listen when he wants to listen, but I think his points have been right. I think she's made some costly errors here in the last couple episodes. And I mean, the pressure of everything, not having a chance to take a breath after having another son killed. Um, it's obviously a difficult position to be in. Joffrey has just made it back, the last of the Strongs, if you will. Um, and it's just not an easy position to be in if you're her. You're not going to make the right decisions all the time, but you know, uh, I definitely don't trust. Um, is it the White Worm or whatever? I call her the Worm, and I definitely don't. I don't. I don't trust the dude from Fanboys there and Fantastic Beasts. I think he. I think they've intentionally given him a few moments these last couple episodes that have been very subtle, very quiet, and I think he is a problem that they're unaware of.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. He seems to be a little too smug um, for his own good, and yet he's still sitting there smiling away. But yeah, it's It's
It was.
definitely a crazy. It's been a crazy wild ride for them so far, just since they've landed in King's Landing.
I was kind of chuckling to myself when they were having the discussion when the girl, I forgot that, like you said, the lady that was getting upset at Daenerys, and then she joins the council, and what's his name is like explaining all the backstory to her, like, oh yeah, this is the person, the son or the person that died, and then it cuts to Daemon, and he's just looking at him like, what is going on? Who are these people? Why are they here? It was just kind of like this. I was just kind of chuckling because I was like, he would probably just kill him if he had the chance. And then he
Yeah,
looks at,
that was a great moment. Like the I don't even know if I'd call it tension, but just the pure acting ability without those two ever needing to say a word to one another at the table.
right. And I think that's been a testament to, I mean, this show in general, this season, there's been a lot more stuff for people to work with. And there's not many moments for levity, but when they come, and it's nice to have a little bit of lightheartedness every once in a while to break some of the awful stuff that's going on in the tension. Um, and I felt really bad for Rhaenyra too. Seeing Joffrey get there and basically avoid him, like almost like she feels guilty. Like, hey, ever since this has started, everyone I've been around is my children are dying, and I don't want to put that same fate on um, on him. And uh, and then there's been the other stuff with what's her name being pregnant and her talking about her son and how he died. So there was just a lot of stuff about uh, again that family element that you just feel bad for her not being able to enjoy something that should be happy for her to have her son there. Is just another point of pain for her.
Yeah, I think I I get that you're queen and you have certain priorities you need to tend to, but like she totally ghosted her own kid in this episode. There were opportunities for her to go see him, and I mean, the whirlwind it must be for that kid who's still very young. I, there's the old saying, and one of you two brought it up earlier that the chair changes people once you get in it, and I'd argue the one person it didn't change was Viserys, but he was also living in denial to some extent, but yet finding a way to keep the peace as best as he could without its ramifications coming back on the rest of Westeros. But it's tough, and it's not supposed to be easier. We wouldn't have a show. But let's get to it here. Team Green versus Team Black. Who takes this episode? I have a hunch I know where this is going, but we will see. Dustin, I'm putting you on the decision-making block first. Is it a Team Green win or a Team Black win, and a brief reason as to why?
I think it's Team Green. Team Black, again, super disorganized. There's so much stuff that's not certain. They're trying to figure everything out. And I think that the losses they have with the Night's Watch and just all of the stuff that's mounting against them, and they're so separated. Um, I think that's why I would say Team Green came out ahead this episode.
Randy, how about you? Are you Team Black or Team Green?
So I'm going to preface this with kind of like what I was hinting at earlier. The fall of the old and the rise of the new. And I was going to say that we have basically the OG Team Green that we've essentially seen from the beginning. They didn't exactly win, but neither did Team Black. However, because if you think about, you think about what's happened with Aemon and Aegon, and then of course at the end there with Helena and Alicent getting trapped in a passage, and the lamp goes out, and you have no clue really what's going to happen after that because they didn't show anything beyond that. But then you have everything that's been going on behind the scenes. And at first, I was going to say basically, uh, Orman Hightower, whatever plan he has set in motion, it's happening. But then you guys brought up the whole idea of the set there, and so I'm going to say that it's a combination of new Team Green and basically the Faith that won the episode, because they're the ones that seem to be holding all the cards. They're the ones that seem to be putting their plans into motion, and that seems to be what's happening here. And that's why I'm going to go with essentially a combination of new Team Green and the Faith.
I too am going with Team Green. That'll be back-to-back weeks where I think if not the entire panel, most of the panel has gone with Team Green. And I got to tell you, fellas, and I'd have to go back and rewatch all the previous episodes from the previous 2 seasons in terms of reviews we've done. I don't know if the mass panel majority has ever voted for Team Green 2 episodes in a row. So that's huge for them. Our old buddy Flicks. Can't believe you're asking us a Westeros-based question, man. But we'll take it. Any thoughts on the City Watch main assassin being someone of significance? It has to be someone skilled and/or trusted by them to get that close. I'm gonna stand with what I said. I think it's the Faith slash the Seven, if you will, that are the ones doing the deed, similar to what they were doing in Game of Thrones. I could be wrong on that, you know. I still don't trust the guy from Fanboys slash Fantastic Beasts. I could see him having obviously he's not the one butchering that whole final supper table, but in terms of who's available and there, I'm kind of firmly in the place of they've pissed off the Seven, and on top of that, the Seven has a pre-existing relationship with Alicent and the Hightowers. It makes a lot of sense to me. So, you guys have any thoughts on who it could be if it's a assassin of sorts?
I don't know if it's like anybody of significance, but if we stick with someone from the Seven, any type of clergy, they're not going to look at this. The gold cloaks aren't going to look at them and be thinking that someone of the cloth is going to try to butcher them. So it is definitely, and maybe it could be an assassin within clergy clothes that legit, they're just kind of unassuming because it's a man of the cloth. It's someone of faith and of religion. Why would they do something like that? So that's definitely a way to get close to someone like that and then be unassuming. And there would be no witnesses because no one would think twice to look at someone who has, is of the faith.
It just turns out that it's Ulf. He's been playing the coward all this time, but he's actually a mad assassin.
That would be wild, and that is definitely far out there. And if you hit on that, you better go play the lottery if that ever comes out.
I think I have a better chance on winning the lottery than that being true. Um, but Flick says he just came in. He agrees they're a sneaky bunch considering how they acted in Game of Thrones. Yeah, that's one thing we were talking about earlier. Is when you look at their hand in Game of Thrones and how they dealt with the whole Cersei situation. Another character that doesn't deserve any damn sympathy. But I really thought this episode had a lot of that in it from Game of Thrones. A lot of the faith and the Seven possibly having their own banner to raise here, if you will, or their own side to take, which is trouble. It's more trouble when you consider, well, the Damon and Rhaenyra's personal guards have been dying. The City Watch is dying, and their forces aren't with them. They have dragons, but dragons at times aren't the end all and be all, no matter how much they want to make them out to be. And you know, I don't know how well protected they really are at this point. Let's get to our favorite character of the episode. Favorite character, favorite scene. We'll combine these two. Obviously, if your favorite character is not in your favorite scene, that's fine too. I'm gonna go to Dustin on this one. What was your favorite character in this episode, or who was, and if you had a favorite scene?
Man, I think my favorite scene would definitely have to be. It was kind of a. If I had to choose, I'd probably say the ending, just because of how surprising it was and how it was set up, and what led up to it, and having Damon find all the bodies like set up like that, like the Last Supper. It was just pretty surprising because you think, okay, they've got this under control. They're going to figure this out. So I was really shocked. I mean, I love the way this episode was filmed. There was some great cinematic shots that they did throughout the episode where I was like, man, they're just really doing such a great job with this. But yeah, that there was a few scenes where I thought, but I just that ending kind of surprised me to a point where I was like, yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes. And I would say, throughout this, we've been talking about it, and when we had the segment, Kristen Cole is probably going to be my favorite character of the episode, just because they took a character where I thought, okay, he's got not much to do left. They're now just kind of, he's become just a one note kind of villain, and having them give him some time with the story, with the script and the storytelling that they set up to kind of explain away where his mind is at and what he was planning to do. And the sympathetic, you could feel a little bit of sympathy for him. Where I was sitting there and going, out of all the characters they showed, I felt that character had the most resonating story to tell in this little bit of time that he had, and what he was willing to do to continue to try to reach, to throw off the army that was going to, I forgot where they were going exactly. But like their kind of guerrilla tactics, and then they have the spikes and the horses and stuff like that, and people are dropping dead in the bogs, and he's just like, no, I'm keeping going. And then at the end, he's like, no, I'm still going to keep fighting. And for that reason, he's my favorite character of the episode.
Randy, how about you?
So I'm going to preface this with, I swear to you, Sean, that Dustin and I did not talk at all about this episode before we got on here, because my favorite scene was the ending as well. I'll go a little bit further. It wasn't just the shock and surprise in Damon's face, but the hint of fear that you saw in his eyes, because some of the people he trusts the most that he thought were untouchable, and they're gone. What does that say for everybody else? What does that say about, could someone get to Rhaenyra, to him? And you could see it all in his face, all in his body language, like those thoughts just crossing his mind, and mixed with just the shot, the lighting, the way everything was set up. And it just really popped off as very powerful for an end. As for a favorite character, for me, it's going to go to Cole, because similar reasons to Dustin, but it's also, again, it's a character, for the longest time, all you want to do is see this dude's head get smashed in. You don't care how it's done. You don't care who does it. You just want it done. And after that well-spoken speech, that everything, how it was acted, how it was delivered, uh, the setting, and just the exhaustion in everybody, as you could see them just having that respect for Cole. It went from, I want to see this dude's head get smashed into, okay, let's see what kind of hell he can raise, and let's see if he can go out in a blaze of glory. And who knows, maybe he'll get a moment where he semi redeems himself, but I'm not counting on it. But because of that, because one speech was able to kind of shift how I feel about somebody, that's why he's my favorite character of the episode. He's my MVP.
I'm going with Tom Glenn Carney's Aegon. He just continues to get better and better. When push came to shove, he was willing to push. He gets that shocking realization that, hey, maybe I am a piece of shit. Maybe Laris has a point here. I just thought it was incredible, and that, my favorite scene. Um, I would say, uh, I want to go with one of the Tom Glen Carney ones, but that one where Damon comes in on the council table in the Red Keep, and you get like this 30-second of, you know, eye communication between him and dude from Fanboys. I thought was a lot of fun. So, um, Flicks, you call me your grace. Yeah, that was a moment. Yeah, so that's what I'll go with. Now, the final question. What are we giving this episode out of 10? And first up, I'm going to let Dustin bat lead off. What are you giving it out of 10, man, and why?
Oh man, I this is another one where I was sitting back and forth, and I was like, "Oh, this score, no, this score." The more I thought about it, I definitely like this episode better than the last episode. Um, for all the stuff it's setting up and some of the mystery and, like you said, some of the classic feel of the Game of Thrones series. The elements seeped its way into this. While there wasn't a ton of action, the action we got was really well done. Um, Again, the back half of the episode, they're really setting stuff up. I hovered around a solid 9. I thought I might go up to a 9.25 or 8.75, and but I figure I split the difference and give it a 9.
Randy, go ahead.
While I'm definitely not, I'm not going to go that high for this episode. I did like it more than last week's. I did enjoy some of the emotional weight that I got from this episode. I know we didn't really touch on the scene with Darren and Orman and essentially playing chess. I don't, obviously it's not chess, but that's the best way to describe it. And just kind of seeing, and at first I thought, Orman was just being a dick and being a sore loser, but no, he was upset that Darren apologized for winning, and he's right. You shouldn't apologize if you win. But like stuff like that had an emotional response to it. Cole had an emotional response to it. Damon, I got an emotional response to it. I didn't have that last week. So whereas I'm not going to go as high as a 9 with this, I'm still going to give it an 8.5 overall, just because it was better than last week. It sets up some really nice pieces, because now we get to have a race to the end, and which I'm excited for. If we would talk about last week, I was ready for the next episode, but not as excited. But now, with everything that's happened in this episode, I'm excited to see where it goes, which is why I'll go 8.5. I think if we could have gotten a little bit more out of some of the things that they just kind of touched on and just kind of just left it at that, like the one-offs with Adam, and then we got, I mean, that, and there were certain characters I feel like we didn't get to see that we probably should have, but yeah, and I know that's the whole thing with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. We can't see everybody, but still 8.5.
I feel like the party pooper of the bunch is intriguing as they found the whole 7 thing to be. It would really suck for them to now come and have it be nothing rather than be something, regardless of what your contract says. Yeah, so like,
He gives it a 10. You heard it here
Let's say the mute monster get you. Now his audio stopped working. Well, that's higher than last week.
So yeah, Sean is telling us he's having some audio issues, as Randy mentioned. Sean gives this a 7.5.
how about now?
Hey, he's back.
I think I gave last week a 7.25.
Yeah, that was like definitely our lowest scoring episode.
Yeah, I'd give this one a 7.5. So,
wow, I'm much higher on most of them than all of you, but
I think 7.5 is still a good episode, right? So
yeah,
yeah, it's still good. It's just not great. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree. Question is, what did each and every one of you think of House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 5? Comment down below whether you're watching live and or after the fact. Share your thoughts there. We are going to take a 2-minute break here, grab some drinks, use the washroom, and we will be back with our Avengers Doomsday trailer review, some Star Wars talk, some Halloween game talk, some brief Crystal Lake thoughts, as long as Johnny ends up gracing us with his presence. And yeah, so stay tuned. We will be right back after this. And we are back. Thank you for your patience. In the back half of this episode, we are talking Avengers Doomsday. Trailer finally dropped. Though, if you were lucky enough to attend CinemaCon, you would have already seen it. Same trailer. We're going to be joined by one of our co-hosts here who is enjoying some off time during this House of the Dragon run. Going to get his thoughts on a couple of topics that we've already talked about in prior weeks, but because he's missed them, I think it's relevant to, get an idea of what he thinks about what's going on, which include Crystal Lake. It includes Star Wars. And all of this is moot unless this software wants to agree with me. And at the moment, of course, it is not. So
when does it ever want to agree with you?
It's, I'm sure there's other people that are using this that experience the same frustrations that we do with it. But, ever since StreamYard's got a massive ego and doubled their price in one shot, it kind of screwed that stuff up for us. But without further ado, I was going to say man, myth, legend, but lately he's been myth because we've barely seen any of them. He's, in fact, here. I don't know about everywhere. He might be there. Johnny V, what's going on, buddy?
I am always everywhere. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. This trailer has pulled me out of my vacation. Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's gonna be fun to talk about.
I'm hoping. I'm trying my best to play this trailer on screen for us, but the software's giving me some issues, so I'm restarting the laptop as we speak to see if that helps. So before we do that, let's dive into this one. I'm assuming you had a chance to see that extremely brief Crystal Lake teaser.
I haven't actually.
Oh. Okay, well.
I don't know how I missed that one.
We're in the same position with the software, where it ain't helping us at the moment. So playing that for you, I don't think is possible either. But I'll give you the rundown on this. We talked about it on the show. It was a hot button discussion topic for some of us here. And essentially what happened is they released this super brief teaser that was, I would argue, very much in the tone of the original Friday the 13th movie. But as we've discussed on this channel for a really long time, that is not the tone of the show. The show comes across more like a thriller than a straight up like 80s horror. So they dropped that on us, right? And it really doesn't show a whole lot of anything, if we're being honest. It's just a trailer that might have 30 seconds of footage that is very intentionally made to feel like the original Friday the 13th, which we know is a little bit misleading. We talked about how that, maybe it's not quite the extent of the Halloween Ends marketing, but not super far off either. But then there was the other bit. Now, we've talked about for, almost 2 years now, that this was going to be a weekly show. That's what they were setting up for. There had been some comparisons, albeit maybe not fair, to Welcome to Derry, them having an 8-week run, being able to, build up hype over that time, keep the discussion going. Well, when they dropped the teaser, Johnny, they also revealed no more 8-week run. They're just releasing all 8 episodes at once. And I know you can be a bit of a binge guy, but that's a little alarming for a streaming service that wants to make more money than less money and is going to avoid releasing new episodes right around Halloween. Any of this concerning to you? Because we all found it very concerning.
I'd say not really. Especially not on a streaming service. You know, if the length of release window, like I don't even like the original, we assume, it'd be like 1 a week or something, but once they condensed it, and if they decided to condense it to 2 per week, 4 weeks, 8 episodes, at that point you're all in one billing cycle. So it doesn't, you're in a 1 month billing cycle, so it doesn't really make much sense either way to prolong it in that survey, like where the numbers aren't, as important, because most places they rank by watch time. Like that's the important metric at the end of everything. So I'm not overly concerned about a batch drop, a bulk drop, because for a streaming show, I prefer that. I've always maintained I prefer the binge drop for streaming shows because it's not cable TV, it's not network television. The ratings metrics aren't daily, hourly, quarter hourly advertisement necessity numbers. It's just total watch time, watch hours over the course of a week, a month, whatever. That it doesn't bother me at all. I prefer it, I always have. So this actually is good news for me, if I'm being honest, because like I said, that's just the way I prefer my streaming content. I like the old days of, the classic series drops where you'd get all 12 episodes of a series on one day and then you can, binge them at your leisure. It's not scheduled. I don't, I'm okay with the routine schedule for network shows. I've never liked it for streaming shows, even when I'd say it was Disney Plus that kind of changed that. When they came on the scene and tried to, sort of double dip with some of their shows when they were airing on Disney Plus and I think Disney XD at the time. So it's, to me, it's not concerning until I see the story. Like, is it a story that doesn't lend itself well to weekly? Where it's going to do more harm than good if you'd have done a weekly drop. Because if you, with certain endings of things and episodes, sometimes that does more harm than good when you do a weekly series. Like, that's what it's going to come down to. Once I sit down and watch it, once we see it, in a couple of months, then I might have a better idea of, yeah, no, this could have been a weekly, or this a bi-weekly, or, a twice weekly, or whatever. But no, I'm not in any way concerned that they changed it. I prefer it this way. So,
well, I know you prefer it this way, which you've established, but make no mistake, the plan was to have this thing run for 8 weeks, not 4 weeks. So that's 2 billing cycles, not 1.
no, I'm saying if in the process they condense that, it's sometime into the process.
It's a radical change fairly late in the game. And that coupled with a trailer that, again, and I'll say this, unless our sources are wrong, which is possible, but considering some of the images that our sources were sharing like a year ago about this project, I don't think they're wrong at all, unless there were some radical changes in the editing room, which is possible. It's certainly not impossible, but between a very misleading teaser, more than likely, and then the change in release schedule, and a radical one at that, I I don't know. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to um, not take advantage of, you know, being able to release new products around Halloween, right? And on top of that, fellas, not only are they not releasing the new product around Halloween, they are willfully just saying, you know what, we could have had, you know, maybe not their finale, but their mid-season release on Friday the 13th, the following month. And they're passing that up too. So I think there's some concerning things here. We know Jeff Snyder came out and said he's hearing some concerning things. I'm going to give it a shot still, simply because I think Brad Caleb Kane had a big hand in Welcome to Derry, and he definitely deserves a shot. But I also know sometimes with projects like these, your showrunner can have power stripped from him, and you can have the marketing geniuses, the suits, if you will, decide that they're going to do what they want. And, um, sadly, too many projects fall victim of that. Speaking of marketing, though, let's dive into it here. The Avengers Doomsday trailer. I will not be able to play audio, fellas, but what I can do is play the trailer, and then we will talk about it. I am pausing it. Is it lagging for anyone else?
Yes.
Yep.
Did I mention I hate the software?
Maybe once or twice.
This is the first time I heard this.
Screen sharing is usually not an issue where it lags much for us, but it's weird because I'm in here technically with two different accounts right now to be able to be on my phone still and screen share, and on one page the software is running completely fine, and on the other one it's lagging. So seems like it's doing a little better now. I jinxed it. Oh, I don't know. All right, we all here?
Yep.
All right, that was not the best screen share, but which is weird because we've just been doing the Halloween stuff recently too. So, Johnny, I'll go to you first, man. What were your thoughts on the trailer? I know it's, I think for the most part, it's been fairly positive review. I don't think it reveals a whole ton unless you've followed leaks and can match images to leaks. Then maybe you got something, but it's pretty much, hey, this person's in it, that person's in it, this person's in it, and they don't even do that with all because I can name half a dozen characters not in this trailer that are in the movie. Um, but it was a neat little first peek to Wet Appetites. What do you think?
I mean, I think exactly that. It didn't dip too far into the story without giving a lot away. I think there's definitely a lot of deception going on in that trailer to what we think is going on versus what is really going on, to the point that I have a personal prediction I'll get to at some point during all this from a sequence in that trailer. But no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Like I said, it didn't give anything away, like, thankfully. A lot of trailers, they show more than they tell, and this one didn't do that. There was nothing in there that was like egregiously, oh my god, this is happening. The closest is probably, when we see Shang-Chi and Gambit fighting. Like, why are they fighting? Like, that's the closest to a what's going on here moment in the trailer. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'm no more, no less excited than I was, before I saw this trailer today. But I'm excited. There's lots of little things that I'm intrigued by inside the trailer. So yeah, it was good. It was fun. It was enjoyable for a 2.5-minute trailer. I thought it was great.
I mean, if you're not more excited after seeing it, though, I would argue it didn't do its job.
In some cases, I'd agree. In mine, it's a Marvel, it's an Avengers. You would have had to given me something like crazy to increase that. Like, the hype level's already high. So like it's not like I'm in a, okay, this is one of those times where video would be great to go with audio, like I'm not at like the 60-70, I'm at like the 80-90. So like it takes a lot to move it up at this point, but it didn't decrease it in any way. It kept it level. So I'm still in that, super hype, 80 plus percentile hype level. So it's not like it decrease, but like if you're like on the fence, if you're suffering from Marvel fatigue and this didn't hype you up more, then yes, that's problematic. But for someone like me who, doesn't suffer from Marvel fatigue at all, I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't suffer from fatigue. I suffer from disappointment. So it's it's an entirely different barometer for me than the average fan.
So what's your theory? Just get it off your chest now.
The theory, I think the next word out of Steve Rogers' mouth are "Hail Hydra," and he's going to whack Thor with the hammer. I don't think that's our Steve, is what I'm saying. I think that's an Elseworld Steve that joined Hydra. So like you're going to get like the Hail Hydra moments from the comics not too many years ago. Right, you build the sequence and you get Steve at the end and he does the Hail Hydra and reveals he's actually a bad guy. I think that's what's going to happen.
See, I feel like I'm right back to our House of the Dragon chat from earlier, Randy and Dustin. I can't say anything because I know the answer to this question. So, or not, it wasn't a question, but a theory. But I shall remain silent. Dustin, your thoughts on the trailer? We posted them briefly in our chat, but feel free to share them here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I have Marvel fatigue. I think Infinity War is probably one of my favorite superhero movies out there. This trailer, the more I thought about it, yes, the first trailer for this, really, most first trailers aren't going to set up the story, aren't going to give you that. They're just going to be like, hey, our job is to, broadly tell everyone this movie is coming out and look, these are the characters that are here. You got some of the new characters. You got, and then obviously they focus on Thor, kind of saying like, hey, he's back. And so if you want to watch this movie, come and watch it because it's Thor. Um, I I've been kind of on the fence about this because I felt like, previous Avengers movies, we've gotten to the point where there's so many characters that they're bringing in, and this this movie seems like, I mean, you've seen there's so many, and I'm just kind of wondering, are we going to be able to have moments with these characters that are meaningful, that are going to drive the story forward? I haven't really enjoyed a whole lot of what Marvel has put out over this last phase or whatever that was leading up to obviously Kang, and then they had to, for other reasons that are probably known, switch over to Doom. Um, the trailer, was fine. It was serviceable. It set it up. I wouldn't say it got me excited. The one question I had was Thor has. It was interesting that Thor was saying that, we face many foes, but nothing scares me such as this. Talking about Doom, and they do have an opportunity with additional trailers to kind of show why, or maybe they won't and they'll save it for the movie. Thanos did a number on Thor, killing Loki. Um, the guilt that Thor had with Stormbreaker throwing it and hitting him in the chest, and then obviously, I just feel like they are kind of behind the eight ball because Thanos got such a buildup through so many movies where he was coming, and then we saw what happened and the threat he posed, where they're really going to have to deliver and sell why Doom is such a big threat and why Thor is so scared of Doom. Obviously, he uses Stormbreaker and he's able to stop it with, a finger, whatever. And that was cool. I do like the look of Doom. I like the mask. I like that it's more the comic book accurate. I love that they're just, this feels like you're a kid playing with, all your toys. You got X-Men and all of this stuff. So there's a lot of cool potential for cool scenes and cool things
Oh
to.
God, don't use that quote. The last time someone said that, it was the Mandalorian and Grogu. We seen
I
how
I
that turned
said
out.
that, but like it's just like, your wildest dreams of like, okay, we're gonna get all these cool characters interacting with one another, and it's like this could be very cool. It also could be I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to see it. I haven't got tickets yet because everything was selling out like crazy. So it just shows you that there is still an appetite for this series. But not being a fan of the current phases, the trailer itself was fine. Like there was nothing wrong with it where I said, "Oh my god, that looks dumb," or that doesn't look right. Um, it's going to be execution, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they've delivered time and time again. But I wouldn't say that it got me any more excited for the movie. Um, Although I'm going to see it, and I hope it is good, but there's been other reports out there that have not painted a great picture, and that doesn't say anything. You have to see a movie in order to have your final judgment on it. But I can kind of see the writing on the walls. Yeah.
I mean, I said a little while ago after I read the leaks, which I believe are accurate, that while it sounds like a shit ton of fun, it sounds extremely busy and extremely messy and might be hard for the average going moviegoer to follow. Randy, your thoughts on the trailer, man?
So obviously, once I saw it dropped, I watched it. I was excited. I sent it around to a bunch of my friends and my wife, and she's hyped for it. My one friend is like, "Well, this thing better be epic because we lost Kang for this." I'm like myself, "Well, the reason we lost Kang is because the actor did some things he shouldn't have, and even though he was like, acquitted at a later date." So here we are. I will say that I don't think that Thor was talking about Doom. I think that that line of dialogue mixed with the visuals is meant to throw us off, because we hear Doom in the trailer talking about something's coming and that they might not be able to, avert it. So I think whatever Doom knows, Thor knows, which is one of the reasons why he's back. At least that's what I got from the trailer. It'll be curious to see if we get a good explanation in the movie as to why Doom can stop Stormbreaker the way he did, but could be intent. It could be what Stormbreaker feels coming from the individual. Obviously, when it came to taking down Thanos, Stormbreaker knew what it had to do. We've seen that Mjolnir and Stormbreaker both are basically living artifacts and have their own will and have their own intelligence. So maybe that's why he was able to do that. That's just a guess. I was really excited to see Gambit, because I thought Channing Tatum did a great job in Deadpool and Wolverine, and I think it's great they're giving him another crack at it. The idea of fighting Shang-Chi should make for an interesting fight, but what if it's not Shang-Chi? We already know Mystique's in the Xavier's school, so what if it's Mystique? Again, we'll have to watch the movie. I think there was a lot of moving parts, a lot of cool visuals, but also I think there's a lot of misdirection, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to go to the movies and see how these scenes play out, and if what we see in the trailer ends up in the final product, or if it's like some trailers where you see some really cool stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor that never gets seen in the movie. But all in all, I'm pretty excited for it. I knew I was excited before, but I don't have Marvel fatigue. So I'm just all around, it just hypes me up for more. And as much as I can say, yeah, I can't wait till December, I'd prefer the year to not go that fast. We still have Spider-Man to get through first and some other stuff. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited.
Alrighty, well, we will obviously follow this project with great interest. This was only a teaser, if you will. We'll have another, at least, there'll be 2 more trailers before the movie comes out, so we'll watch to see how they choose to market this thing going forward. All right, let's dive into Star Wars. This one is more meant for Johnny and Dustin, who I don't believe were here to participate in making Star Wars's coverage of Star Wars Starfighter. So let's dive into it. On July the 5th, Making Star Wars made his public return out of nowhere, and his previous post on Twitter before that was almost, or X, whatever you want to call it, 2 years prior. And when he talks about Star Wars, you can basically bank on it happening. So Johnny and Dustin, we're just going to walk you through this. Randy and I have already done it, and we'll get your thoughts on it. Some of the stuff we've heard before, some of it is more detail. But Randy and I found it pretty informative and cool. So we'll see if it gets you guys any more excited. He says, I heard Ryan Gosling in Star Wars Starfighter is playing a character named Cade. I also heard Flynn Gray, which is the kid, is playing a character that sounded like Roan or Ronan, something like that. The chemistry between the 2 actors is supposedly really strong. In Starfighter, he heard that Eva Mendes is playing a fully glammed out cantina owner named Belle. She's 650 years old with gold skin tight pants, a corset with a golden cape. Bespin Bulletin also heard that as well. Important note here, Eva Mendes is the wife of Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling plays Cade, a rogue / Han Solo style protagonist. Cade escorts the child to the Jedi Refuge or Academy on a planet called Adaria. Aaron Pierre, what was he in recently? Was it a Green Lantern movie? I can't remember. Aaron Pierre appears to be connected to that Jedi sanctuary on Adaria. Mia Goth's character and Aaron Pierre's character get into a lightsaber fight on Adaria. That is the lightsaber fight that was filmed by Tom Cruise. The Jedi present on Adaria seem like they're mostly Padawans. They wore beige Jedi-style tunics similar to Obi-Wan and young Anakin at the end of The Phantom Menace. The Jedi refugee planet called Adaria is green and lush, East Asian inspired, full of greenery and fountains, having tiki-style huts. The sets have large mechanical struts, possibly for landing gear. Um, our hero Cade, aka Ryan Gosling, seems to have a necklace that is important in some way. Flynn Gray uses an American accent for Star Wars Starfighter, despite not being American. And Cade comes across more like Han Solo / pirate rogue character early on. I heard that he was the best friend of the father of Gray's character, and he had to take the boy to the Jedi planet, and A.B. Adams plays the boy's mom, which we knew. I guess the twist there is we were under the impression Ryan Gosling's character was the uncle of Flynn Gray's character. But, I mean, in figuratively speaking, if he was the father's best friend, then kind of comes across like Uncle Cade rather than biologically being Uncle Cade. The interesting thing here with Ryan Gosling's character being named Cade is if you're a fan of any Star Wars Legends stuff, specifically the Legacy comics, about a series that was set 100 called Star Wars Legacy, set about 100 years after A New Hope, starred a character named Cade Skywalker. When Ryan Gosling was first cast in this role, people were joking around, well, geez, Ryan Gosling looks a lot like Cade Skywalker. Could it be? We have no idea. I don't expect the last name to be Skywalker. Depends how old of a character Ryan Gosling's pulling off. But if you told me Ryan Gosling's playing a, 33-year-old character, I would believe it. And that would put him in position to at least be possibly Luke's offspring or Leia's offspring. Again, I don't know if they're going that route, but we'll see what happens. It very much feels like this movie is meant to be a lead into whatever episodes 10, 11, and 12 are going to be. Dustin, I'll go to you first, buddy. What did you think of all that info?
That's a lot of information. Yeah, I don't think. You know what? I say this and then I think back, oh, how many times have I been wrong before? It doesn't seem to me like they'll do. I mean, it is weird, right, that they're calling him Cade and there's Cade Skywalker, and the look and the age and everything kind of does line up, unless they're just doing that as kind of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, and then it's not related at all. I know there's been a lot of stuff about how far, into the future this movie takes place. There's been a lot of debate. I'm excited for this movie. I don't know what they're going to do as far as like bringing in legacy characters. Like, there's been all the rumors that Rey is going to show up, and it depends on how far they push it out. And is Rey going to be going by, I guess she's going to be going by Rey Skywalker still, which I don't know. Part of me thinks that for this movie, if it is going to lead into the next trilogy, there has to be, I think part of me thinks if they're not going to do the Rey movie, then just kind of stay away from that and let them start exploring or laying the seeds for what's going to be coming, if they're going to tie this in or have there be elements of the political dynamics of what's going on in the worlds or in the galaxy at the time. And or they just going to say, hey, let this be its own standalone thing so we don't have to use it as an anchor for all this other stuff. But then maybe once you go back, you get the next trilogy, you can go back and say, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool. There was elements of that were shown here that ended up being something. Or, maybe this movie does really well and they decide to do something else with it. But, and I am excited to see Matt Smith show up as the antagonist. I am interested to see. I've been the most excited for this project out of anything that's coming. So all of this sounds good, and I think a lot of it is still to be determined. I think once we see a trailer too, we'll kind of have a better idea.
Sounds like that might happen relatively soon. So we'll keep our eyes and ears peeled for that now that the movie is 10 months away. So that's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah, about 10 months, almost 10 months, 10 months and a week or so. I thought a lot of it sounded really good. There's definitely information here, not a ton, but I think we've had so many projects that don't feature hardly any Jedi recently that it's nice to think about a project that not only are we going to get some sort of Jedi headquarters, but whatever the Jedi look like at this point in stage in the timeline is they're going to be featured somewhat prominently, and I can appreciate that. And I also love movies that are built on character chemistry, and like we didn't even get a chance to have that in The Mandalorian and Grogu. He gets 2 scenes with Sigourney Weaver, who's wooden and mailing it in, and then he doesn't interact with another fucking human being the entire fucking movie. So, the ability to have characters have chemistry. I know Mia Goth and Matt Smith spend some time together on screen in this movie. Matt Smith was talking about it. We know Gosling and the kid and the dude from, I forget the actor's name, but the guy that played Baratheon in Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I know those three have some stuff together. I just think there's some promising things here. Am I completely sold on it? No, but just the entire handling of it, the handling of the cast announcements, from what we've heard, it just sounds like a much better handled project, and I just hope it hasn't been hurt by projects that came up before it that were not handled well. Johnny, your thoughts on some of this stuff? When I was reading it, I couldn't help but think back to the days where we were making Star Wars coverage on The Force Awakens.
Yeah. I think I think a lot of that stuff was stuff we got a while back. Not a lot, but the character descriptions and what have you.
None of the Jedi stuff. We had none of that.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that stuff was stuff we'd had previously. It's exciting, to have more depth versus a lot of what we've got in latter. Like, you brought up The Mandalorian and Grogu as a prime example. Like, yeah, that's not what we want from this, right? So, like, I like the idea of seeing that, and you're right. Getting to see sort of the Jedi in whatever form or fashion it's in at this point will be different, because you're right. It's not something we've ever really gotten, right? So for me, it's exciting because, the Jedi Order we've seen has been like, I don't want to say prime, but like dying Jedi in the prequel trilogy. I guess peak Jedi in the Acolyte, and no Jedi Order in the sequel trilogy. So it'll be interesting to see what a Jedi society on the come up is, because that's what this one's going to be. It's not going to be at the peak of the past, but it's in its new form, whatever. And that excites me. Matt Smith, won't turn down anything that man is in except Morbius. So I'm excited. I like the idea.
Not even Matt Smith could save that.
Not even Matt Smith can save that. But I'm excited for it. There's enough depth in this cast that can cure a lot of ills, I think, for me anyway. Not just from a Matt Smith standpoint, but like you said, Ryan Gosling as well. So I'm confident enough in their skills, and the thing that I'm confident most in is Ryan Gosling's ability to have said no. He's not a name who's hurting for this, even if he is the biggest Star Wars nerd in the world, whose one goal in going to Hollywood was to be in a Star Wars film. He has the depth of notoriety that this had to be a good presentation. There had to be a lot behind this to get him on board. So I'm definitely, like I said back at the time, I'm more excited for that than I ever was for Mando and Grogu. I still am. So I'm excited for it. I'd like to see a trailer sometime in the not too distant future, or something in the not too distant future for it. Now that they've got
Sounds
the Doomsday.
Like D23. The question's, will it be released publicly, or are we just gonna have crappy footage / description?
Yeah.
I mean, we're 10 months out already as it is. We're around the time where, other than projects not called Mandalorian and Grogu, where Star Wars movies typically get their first teaser.
I think there's a dual chance. I mean, with the Doomsday trailer dropping today, I'd say there's an outside chance they attach it to Spider-Man, but being that's not a full Disney product, the odds are much lower. So I think it is probably a D23 situation. But you're right. Then the question is it a simultaneous release, a singular release? What is it? And when do we get to see it? Is the question. The only question I have at this point.
D23 is next month, and we will be
middle of August.
Yeah, we'll be almost 9 months from the movie. I think if you're releasing it at D23, you need to be putting that thing out there publicly too. And given how early they announced their cast, I don't see why they wouldn't. I'm really excited for this project. I think it has a chance to be something. I hope it is something. Look, I was not overly excited for The Rise of Skywalker, and I do not think it delivered. I think it was such an albatross that it made me appreciate The Last Jedi more. I didn't mind Solo. It's probably the Star Wars movie I've seen the least. But, looking back at it now, I don't know if I've been as excited for a movie between Sean Levy writing and knowing Gosling's got a hand in the behind-the-scenes stuff and is starring, and I have full confidence in Matt Smith and Mia Goth and Daniel Ings and Aaron Pierre. And now we know Eva Mendes is going to be in it. It's a talented cast that's involved in this movie. And look, you can be the biggest Tom Cruise naysayer that you want to be, and half of it is deserved with the way he acts sometimes. But I'll say one thing about Tom Cruise when it comes for his taste in movies and time that he's willing to spend. Tom Cruise does not show up to that set and get behind the camera to film a lightsaber duel unless he is invested in what you're doing with that project and how you're doing it. And I think that says something. I'm excited. We could go see the movie next year and it could be dog shit. We don't know, but I think it's got more going for it than Mando and Grogu ever did. And, you got to start somewhere, right?
Not that that's a high bar.
No, it's an extremely low bar. Yeah, definitely an extremely low bar. Dustin, were you on when we covered the Orange Grove Estates Halloween map?
Yeah, I was there. We talked about that.
Okay, Johnny, have you seen the Orange Grove Estates Halloween map yet?
Yeah, I think that was the last episode I was on.
Nope, that was a different map.
No, was it?
They've released another map since then. Yep. So, let's dive in here and see if this lovely software will let us do one more thing this episode. Not holding my breath, but let's see what happens.
Okay, I did see it, but it was not the episode I was on. You're right.
It doesn't look like it's lagging right now. Is it lagging for you?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with software tonight, fellas. Anyway, I won't play through this then if you've already seen it. But we've got 3 distinctly different maps now. This one doesn't look quite as big as the previous one we were watching, but has some intimate spots from the original Halloween movie. We're expecting at least one more map to be revealed before the release of the game. The developer Q&A revealed a few things. One of the bigger ones being that Michael Myers can drive a car on multiplayer maps, which definitely stays true to the character. I don't know how beneficial that's going to be to you if you're Michael, other than to screw around and have some fun. I do love the idea, though, of someone thinks Michael's by them. They're running into the middle of the street, and Michael just smokes the person with the car. Like, I want to see that character cartwheel down the street, you know?
Oh, it's going to happen. Someone's going to get hit by a car driven by Michael Myers.
Yes. Hopefully someone on one
it's
of our
going to happen in one of our games. Let's be real.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
Another intriguing one, which I did not think they would get this technical with it, I don't know if you've seen us discussing in the chat, is the game is going to have dynamic weather. Yes. So it could be clear, it could be foggy, it could be light rain, it could be pouring rain, and they're at least talking about the possibility of adding snow into it, which they should, because guess what? It snows in Illinois before Halloween sometimes, and we've all wanted that visual. Michael in the snow. So might be a little harder to do.
I was going to say, from a technical standpoint, I think that might be a little too difficult off rip, just because then you have to add in like footprints and tracks, and
I could see them doing more of a sprinkle than a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Although I would certainly sign up for the snowstorm, but that might entirely require redoing maps. So there is that. There's the cross-platform play.
That was big news that I love to hear.
So PlayStation and Xbox. Still getting mine for PlayStation because it'll be easier for us to stream from here to the channel.
Yeah, see, for me, it's the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, PlayStation for me. I'm forgetting some of the details. There was a couple other things they pointed out. But yeah, no, just in general, Randy and Dustin have talked about this a bit, but you feeling more confident about the game? I think the last time we spoke to you, you had said you were feeling more confident about the game, but it really does seem like they've they put their best foot forward here with at least what they have to work with, as long as people keep expectations in check.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you're right in describing my expectations as something that has been going up every time we see more and more of this game, and that is still 100% factual. Um, I love I love everything. Everything I have seen has made me happy in some form or fashion. Like I to the point that like I never believed we'd get Michael driving a car in multiplayer. I thought that might be something we get in the story, but I didn't think it would ever happen in the multiplayer. And to have that be a part of it is huge for me. I love that because it shows the effort they're putting into it, right? Like we know that from the rip they've always maintained that this project is more passionate for them, right? Like it's more personal. And I think we're seeing that every time we have seen something from this game, it has been something that makes me more excited. So yeah, I am extremely excited. It cannot get here soon enough. And yeah, day one, I will absolutely be playing the crap out of this game.
Yeah, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, it'll become a mainstay on our channel for a couple of months, where we'll probably be doing, you know, doing some like 2.5 hour streams, where the first hour is us doing our normal show, and then the back 90 minutes is, guess what, we're playing Halloween the game, and you guys are all welcome to tune in and have some fun with us. Um, I remembered a few of the other points that they covered. So characters are going to have different costumes, like the playable characters, but also the NPCs. So it's not always just going to be the same stationary thing. It's not always going to look the same. Um, so that was something. Um, for those that love to just try to like escape the map quickly, like right out of the gate, and don't have interest in doing tasks or saving the NPCs, the population of Haddonfield, if you will, they are certainly welcome to escape the map early, but they will not win the game. That's not how this game is being judged. They escaped the map. Congratulations, you didn't die, but that does not mean you won. There's a point system that benefits those playing Michael Myers, going around killing people, and in some cases killing people in specific ways, but also rescuing the residents of Haddonfield, which is the actual point of the game. So there's that. There's this ability as Michael where you can morph through doors and windows. And before he could just do it, I guess when they were at PAX, and they've changed that. So, like, say Johnny's Michael and I'm somebody hiding inside the house and he sees me through the window from outside, he'd be able to morph through that window, and if he has the ability anyways, and it's not recharging or whatever, to come in there. Well, now if you go inside and lock a door and turn on the light, it's going to be crucial to turn on lights, just as your Michael, it'll be crucial to cut the power. But if the light is on, he cannot just morph into that room, which makes sense. He's the shape. He's supposed to stalk from the shadows. So yeah, a lot of cool small details. I like the car driving one. I think that's pretty key to what's going on. Rand,
I was gonna say, just thinking about the some of the dynamic weather. Just thinking about what you could do as Michael Myers in just a foggy situation. You wouldn't even really need to worry about light sources, but so much, especially on the city streets. Obviously, indoors is different, but just the ambushes you could set up just from the foggy area. That's really cool to think about.
Absolutely. Dustin, any final thoughts on Halloween the game before we get going here?
No, I pretty much covered it last week. I'm excited for it. It's going to be fun to play with everyone and see what we can get into and mess around with and have some fun.
I love that this game's getting a physical edition and specifically a limited collector's edition. I was very lucky to score a pre-order on mine. That being said, like the guys at Slash and Cast were talking about, because of the timing of it and how late in the process it was, or was it done intentionally? Who knows? But they'll get my money twice, unfortunately, because I'm not waiting a month to play the game. But I'm really excited for the collector's edition. Really excited for that Myers statue. I think it looks fantastic. Um, don't really have a good place to put it, but I will figure that out.
I think for me, I would have preferred it more if it wasn't a game skin statue. Like, I understand it, and I think it looks great.
Oh, see, I prefer it more because of that, simply because we already have all the other fucking statues if you want to order them on Mecca or Trick or Treat Studios.
That's a valid point.
I mean, I don't have them all. I don't have fucking space for them. In fact, I can go here on record and I guess probably get my Halloween fandom card stripped, but I don't have a single Michael Myers figure. I've never bought in one of the actual, like, the NECA or the Trick or Treat Studios figures. I've had, like a pop-up bobblehead guy on a house and some heads in a globe, but like in terms of actual like statue type figures, um, that are like this one, I don't recall having one. So had again some similar things, but not exactly like this. And hey, black and blue is also my favorite color combination. So sign me
It
up.
looks good. It looks good. Like, visually, I think it's for its purpose. I think it's a great statue.
Yeah. It sounds like the limited collector's edition is sold very, very well too. Very hard to come by now at this point, specifically in the States. But definitely looking forward to it. All right, Dustin, we'll actually it's 11:30, so you know what? We're just gonna close down for the night here, fellas. Johnny, thanks for coming out tonight, man. We haven't seen you in a bit. Probably be a couple more weeks before we call on you again. We're almost through this House of the Dragon run. Where can everybody find you at? What do you got going on?
Oh, you can find me here, there, and everywhere. Yeah.
Dustin, what about you, man? Where can everybody find you at?
You'll find me here Mondays talking.
I thought for sure he was going to do it.
I did too. I thought he was just going to be like, you said it already, so now I'm just going to say it too.
No, I figure I caught enough heat last week with the
hey,
mention
all
of Dark
you
Knight
did
Rises.
was tell the truth.
What's he going to do to you?
He'll find me.
Okay.
Did you get nuclear poop though? Did my juju curse work?
No, it did not. My son.
Well, it's still coming. It'll happen. And when it does, I want you to like shake your fist like a superhero villain and just be like, "Damn you, Johnny!"
Yeah, you'll know. You'll be the first person I tell, and then I will make sure to send you deluxe editions of The Dark Knight Rises as well as the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Well, I don't have either of those in my collection, so that's fine.
Well, we all know images don't lie, and as the image says, Johnny could not be with us tonight as he is watching the Elm Street remake.
I was not watching the Elm Street remake. I was not watching the Elm Street remake. You could not pay me to watch the Elm Street. I was, however, tackling the facilities of Australia playing Aviotic Factor with my friends. Much more fun experience.
No idea
what that in a hot minute. It's a fun game.
Carol Haley would disagree.
We just finished the story not too long ago. Great stuff.
Yeah, you'll find me here, and I look forward to the next episode of House of the Dragon, and I'm sure there'll be more Star Wars news and Halloween game stuff. So yeah, I'm excited, and it was nice to break away and talk with y'all today.
Randy, what about you, man? What do you got going on?
Not a whole lot, but you can always find me over on X at Giggity Giles, obviously every week here. As football season gets ready to ramp up, we're starting to doing some recordings with the Sports Brew. We just talk shit, drink, and just have a lot of fun with it. If you're into anything like that, just Google Sports and Brew, and you will find the home feed on Podbean, no problem.
Sounds like a P-Land. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, for Dustin, Johnny, Randy, and myself, and for Zach and Ryan, who could not be here tonight, we will see you all next week when the Empire